And when I assessed what was happening in our community, we had more churches in our community than most of these other folk did. We had churches on every corner. But we had more crime. We were beaten up by the police and shot by the police more than any other people. We had more drugs. We had more alcoholics in our community, more liquor stores in our community. We suffered more than anybody else, and it appeared that we prayed more than anybody else, and somehow our prayers weren't being answered. And as I thought about it, and as I processed it, the only conclusion I came to is maybe the reason why our prayers aren't being answered is because we're praying to the wrong God. And I say that because I believe in the Creator. And I know the Creator answers prayers. So if you're doing all of this praying, if you have all of these churches, houses of prayers, but you're suffering more than anybody else, then maybe you're doing it wrong. And after 400 years of being in the same position while everybody else is running past you, then you got to stop and look at what you're doing and be willing to ask some very serious questions if you want to know the answer. But if you don't want to know the answer, then you keep on doing the same old thing, getting the same old answers, and accepting the fact that things aren't going to change. So the reality of the situation is one of the greatest tricks that the Europeans ever played on us was stealing our concept of God, changing the image of God, Europeanizing God, and giving that image and those perceptions back to us in a Europeanized version that we felt bound to accept for our salvation. That's the greatest hustle that's ever been played on us. For the past 1,600 years, the world has been shaped by European explorers, European colonizers, and European enslavers who have used both the sword and the Bible to conquer indigenous people all over the earth and to teach them to worship a God who looked like their conquerors and their enslavers. That's a historical fact. This action was initiated in 312 by Constantine. Constantine, the first emperor of Rome, who on the eve of a battle said that he had a vision. And in this vision, God came to him and said that if he fought under the sign of the cross, then all of his battles would end in victory for him. And so prior to the battle that morning, Constantine had all of his soldiers paint the sign of the cross on their shields and the Greek letters chi and rho, which are the first two letters in the word Christ. They went into battle, they were victorious, and Constantine found a hustle that has worked for conquerors ever since. And that is, he found a weapon that was more powerful than a cruise missile, more powerful than an atomic bomb. He discovered the power of theological warfare. The whole idea of conquering people in the name of God. And anyone who didn't believe in your God was labeled a pagan or an infidel. And as a result of this label, you could justifiably kill that person, rape that person, sodomize that person, rob that person with the blessings of God. Every European conqueror, from Christopher Columbus to Cortez to George Washington, engaged in theological warfare. Each of these people violated the very commandments that they taught their subjects and their slaves to follow. America is a Christian nation which was founded on theft, murder, and enslavement. Africans in America became Christians only because they were enslaved by Christians. Remember, slaves take on the religion of their slave masters, and only slaves and dogs are named by their slave masters. Free people name themselves and worship the God of their choice. Now, unfortunately, this little brief profile that I've given you is not taught in school, and sure isn't taught in most churches. It may be glossed over in some seminaries, but it's never really discussed in any detail. And as long as people remain ignorant of this historical reality, then they will remain spiritually disenfranchised. So if African Americans wish to change their relationship with the Creator, then they have to first begin to understand world history and begin to understand the difference between religion and spirituality. Religion is man-made. And essentially, if you look at the word religion comes from the Latin words re and ligan. Re means back or return. Ligan means to bind or to hold. So religion is a process of binding back to that which holds you together, binding back to whatever creative principle you believe in. Religions are all made by man and are essentially a man's attempt to define a system to relate to something greater than them. That's all religion is. Whereas spirituality, on the other hand, speaks to cultivating a greater relationship with this force that permeates everything through the universe. You can't contain it. You can't put a picture on it, a label on it. It is. And it's a matter of understanding it in its pure essence. And so what we find in looking at world history, current world history, we find that religion is changing shape. We find particularly there's been a rapid decline in Christianity and an increase in Islam and other traditional religions, and an escalating belief in the practice or attempt to practice various spiritual traditions. And what's happening is those people who have been promoting Christianity are now struggling to hold on to their positions of power and authority in the world. Case in point, Pope John Paul II has visited Africa more than all of the popes of Rome combined. Why is that? Because Christianity is dying in Europe. It's dying in America. And the only way that they can hold on to their power is by getting new converts. And they have been going to Africa, they have been going to Mexico, they have been going to South America to recruit people of color into their faith. I don't think any pope has ever been to Ireland, have they? Anyway, it's another story. But it's interesting to note that in Africa, there's been this concerted effort to reintroduce Christianity into Africa. So much so that on the continent of Africa today, there are over 200 new churches that are being opened every week, every month of every year for the past several years. For decades, Europeans have been meeting in conferences behind closed doors, colleges, universities, and various forums throughout the world. And what they've been doing is discussing a new way to present their theology. Because the history of these religions are now being challenged by former priests, by former rabbis.